There's this sentence that ruins people quietly. 5 words: simple, ordinary. The kind of sentence you'd read in a text message and almost scroll past because it looks harmless on the surface. I'm not ready for a relationship. That's the sentence. And the first time you hear it, you think you understand what it means. You think it means they need time, they need space, they need to figure some things out before they can give themselves to someone fully. And you respect that. You actually do, because you care about them. And caring about someone means honoring where they are, even when it's not where you want them to be. So you nod, you say, I understand. You give them the space they asked for, and you wait. Because the sentence sounds temporary. It sounds like a pause, not a stop. It sounds like something that has an expiration date, and you're willing to wait for that date because the person asking you to wait is the person you'd wait forever for if they asked. But then something starts to happen. Something that doesn't match the sentence, because the person who said they're not ready for a relationship starts acting like they're in one, with you. They text you every morning, they call you at night, they flirt with you in a way that feels intentional, not accidental. They say things that make your chest open, things that sound like affection, things that sound like care, things that, if you heard them from anyone else, you would interpret without hesitation as someone who likes you, wants you, is choosing you. But this person already told you they're not ready, so you don't know what to do with the warmth. You hold it carefully, like something fragile, because you're afraid that if you name it, if you call it what it looks like, they'll take it back. They'll say, I told you, I'm not ready, and you'll be the one who misread the room. And so you sit in the warmth without naming it. You receive the affection without claiming it. You participate in something that feels exactly like a relationship, but exists in this strange, unspoken territory where nobody has agreed to call it that. And the territory feels nice at first. It feels intimate. It feels like you're both building something, quietly, privately, without the pressure of labels or definitions or expectations. And you tell yourself that maybe this is how it starts. Maybe they're easing into it. Maybe the not ready is melting slowly under the heat of what you two are becoming. And if you're patient enough, kind enough, present enough, they'll eventually say the thing you've been waiting to hear, that they're ready now, that you were worth the wait, that everything they've been giving you was a preview of what they're finally willing to commit to. But that moment doesn't come. Weeks pass, months pass, and the dynamic doesn't evolve. It stays in the same undefined space, the same warmth without labels, the same closeness without commitment, the same conversations that feel like love but never get called love. And you start to notice a pattern. Every time things start to feel real, every time the connection deepens to the point where the next natural step would be some kind of acknowledgement, they pull back. They say the sentence again. Or they don't say it, but you feel it. A slight withdrawal, a subtle cooling, a reminder delivered through action instead of words that this, whatever this is, has a ceiling. And the ceiling is exactly where you are right now, and you're not allowed to push through it. And that's when the confusion starts to feel less like confusion and more like a trap, because you're stuck. You can't move forward because they've told you they're not ready. You can't move on because they keep pulling you back with the same energy that made you care in the first place. And you can't even be mad about it because they were honest with you. They told you up front. They said the words, and you chose to stay anyway. So who's really at fault here? Them for not being ready, or you for believing that your love was strong enough to change their mind? I think about that question a lot, and I don't have a clean answer for it, because I don't think it's as simple as fault. I think it's a situation where two people are being honest about different things. They're being honest about not wanting a commitment, and you're being honest about wanting one. And the space between those two truths is where all the damage happens. Neither of you is lying, but the distance between what you need and what they're willing to give is so vast that standing in it feels like standing in a field during a storm, exposed, unprotected, waiting for something to change while the rain keeps falling. And the rain is their behavior. Their behavior is the thing that keeps you wet. Because if they just said the words and then acted accordingly, if they kept their distance, treated you casually, gave you nothing to hold on to, you'd be able to walk away. It would hurt, of course it would, but the hurt would be clean. The hurt would have a clear source and a clear direction, and you could process it and move through it and come out the other side. But they don't keep their distance. They come close. They stay close. They text you goodnight. They remember what you told them 2 weeks ago. They ask how that thing went. They make you feel seen in a way that very few people in your life have ever made you feel. And that seeing is the hook. That's the thing that keeps you tethered. Because being seen is rare, and when someone sees you, really sees you, walking away from them feels like walking away from the only mirror that shows you accurately, and you're not sure you can find another one. So you stay, not because you're weak, not because you don't know your worth, but because the thing they're giving you, even without the label, feels more real than most labeled things you've had. And the realness of it is what makes it so confusing. Because how do you walk away from something that feels this real? How do you leave a connection that, in every way except the official one, feels like the most honest thing in your life? The answer, theoretically, is that you deserve someone who chooses you completely. And you know that. You've read the quote, you've heard the advice, you've nodded along when your friends told you the same thing in slightly different words. But theory and practice are different languages. And the language your heart speaks right now is not the language of deserving better. It's the language of wanting them, specifically, exactly, without substitution. And wanting someone who won't fully choose you is its own specific kind of agony, because you can't even fully grieve it. Grieving requires loss, and this isn't loss, not technically. They're still there. They're still texting you. They're still calling. They're still creating moments that feel like the beginning of something. So what are you grieving? The absence of a label? The absence of a commitment? The absence of a future that you can see but they won't confirm? It feels silly to grieve something that was never officially yours. And that silliness is part of the trap too, because it makes you minimize your own pain. It makes you tell yourself that you're overreacting, that you're being dramatic, that you're making a big deal out of something that doesn't technically qualify as a relationship. So how can it qualify as a heartbreak? But it is a heartbreak. It's a heartbreak that doesn't have a start date or an end date. It's a heartbreak that exists in a continuous present tense. It's happening right now while they text you something sweet. It's happening right now while they make you laugh. It's happening right now while they create another memory you'll hold on to long after they've moved on. The heartbreak isn't something that comes after they leave. The heartbreak is the staying. The heartbreak is the participating in something that you know deep down is not going where you want it to go, and smiling through it anyway, because the alternative, confronting it, might end the only source of warmth you have. I've started to notice something about the way they talk to me, and it's subtle enough that I almost missed it, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. They're careful. Not careful in the way that someone who cares about your feelings is careful. Careful in the way that someone who's managing a situation is careful. They give enough to keep me close, but not so much that I could ever point to a specific thing and say, see, you led me on. Every message is calibrated. Every moment of affection is measured. Not coldly, not calculatedly, but with this awareness of exactly how far they're willing to go and exactly where the line is. And the line never moves. I keep thinking it will. I keep thinking that the next sweet thing they say is the beginning of them crossing the line, but they never cross it. They walk right up to it. They let me feel the warmth of what's on the other side, and then they step back, and I'm left standing at the line by myself, looking at the space they just occupied, wondering why they came that close if they never intended to cross. And I've started to wonder if they know what they're doing. Not in a manipulative way. I don't think they sit down and plan this. I don't think they wake up in the morning and think, today I'm going to give them just enough to keep them around, but not enough to commit. I think it's more unconscious than that. I think they genuinely enjoy my company. I think they genuinely care about me. I think the attention they give me is real. But I also think they've figured out, maybe without even realizing it, that they can have all the benefits of a relationship without any of the vulnerability. They get the comfort of someone who cares about them, they get the emotional intimacy, they get the good morning texts and the late night calls and the feeling of being wanted. And they don't have to give anything back that costs them. They don't have to commit, they don't have to be accountable, they don't have to show up on the hard days. They just have to keep saying the same 5 words whenever things get too real. I'm not ready for a relationship. And those words act as a reset button every time. They say it, I absorb it, and we go back to exactly where we were. Nothing changes, nothing moves forward, nothing resolves. The sentence is a loop, and I'm running inside it. And the worst part is that the sentence makes me feel like I'm the unreasonable one, because they told me. They were upfront. They said the thing. And if I'm still here, that's my choice. If I'm still hurting, that's on me. If I'm still hoping for something they explicitly said they can't give, then the delusion is mine, not theirs. And that logic is airtight. From the outside, it's completely fair. But from the inside, from the place where I'm actually living this, the logic falls apart. Because the logic doesn't account for the behavior. The logic only accounts for the words. And the words and the behavior are telling 2 completely different stories. The words say, I'm not ready. The behavior says, I want you close. And I'm supposed to believe the words while my entire body is responding to the behavior. And the body doesn't read words. The body reads touch and tone and proximity and attention. And all of those things are saying, this person wants me here, so how am I supposed to leave? I've tried pulling away. I have, more than once. I've told myself, this is it. I'm done waiting for someone who's never going to choose me. And I mean it when I say it. I feel the resolve in my chest. I feel the clarity. For a few hours, sometimes a full day, the pulling away feels powerful. It feels like the right decision. It feels like the beginning of getting my life back. And then they text me. Not a big text, not a dramatic "I miss you," just a casual, ordinary, perfectly timed text that says something normal. Something that wouldn't mean anything from anyone else. But from them, after a day of silence, after a day of me actively trying to disengage, it's a hand reaching through the wall I just built and pulling me back through. And I let it. I respond. I re-engage. And the wall comes down in seconds. All the resolve I built over a full day crumbles under the weight of one message from the one person I was trying to walk away from. And they don't even know they did it. They don't know they just dismantled my entire exit strategy with a, "Hey, how was your day?" They weren't trying to pull me back. They were just doing what they always do, keeping me close enough that I never fully leave, but far enough that I never fully arrive. And the space between close and far is the space I've been living in for months now. And the space is getting smaller, not because the distance is closing, but because I'm shrinking. I'm shrinking to fit inside whatever room they're willing to give me. And every week, the room gets a little smaller. And every week, I make myself a little smaller to match. And one day, if I keep going, there won't be any of me left. Just the shape of a person who used to have a whole life and a whole identity and a whole sense of self, now compressed into the exact dimensions of someone else's convenience. And I know that. I can see it happening. I can watch myself disappear into this situation the way you watch a candle burn down, slowly, visibly, with full awareness of where it's headed. And I still can't blow it out because the flame is theirs. And their flame, even as it melts me, is the only warmth I have. I've started asking myself questions I don't want to answer. Like, what does "not ready" actually mean? Because I've been accepting the phrase at face value for months. I've been treating it like a medical condition, like a temporary state that will pass with time and patience and the right circumstances. But what if "not ready" doesn't mean what I think it means? What if "not ready" doesn't mean I'm working on myself and one day I'll be able to give you what you need? What if "not ready" is just a softer way of saying, "I don't want this with you," specifically you? And they can't say that because saying it would mean losing the comfort of having me around. So they say "not ready" instead, because "not ready" keeps the door open. "Not ready" keeps me hoping. "Not ready" keeps me exactly where they want me, which is here, available, emotionally invested, asking nothing, expecting nothing, giving everything. And I hate that I've started thinking this way, because it makes me feel cynical, and I'm not a cynical person. I want to believe the best about people. I want to believe that when someone says they're not ready, they mean it honestly and without an agenda. But after enough time, after enough cycles of pulling close and pushing away, after enough late-night conversations that feel like breakthroughs but lead nowhere by morning, you start to question the honesty of the whole thing. Not because they're a bad person, but because the pattern doesn't match the narrative. And when the pattern and the narrative disagree for long enough, eventually you have to trust the pattern, because the pattern is what's actually happening, and the narrative is just what's being said about it. The pattern is this: they come close when they want comfort. They pull away when things get real. They initiate contact when they feel lonely. They create distance when they feel crowded. They use my attention like a dimmer switch, turning it up when they need it and down when they don't. And I am the switch. I'm the object in this equation, not the subject. They are the subject. They decide when we're close and when we're not. They set the pace, they define the terms, and I follow. Because following feels better than being left behind. And being left behind is what happens every time I try to set my own pace. And I've started to notice what this is doing to my self-worth. Not in the dramatic, obvious way. Not in the way where I look in the mirror and hate myself. It's quieter than that, more insidious. It's the way I've started to believe that this is the most I can get. That this half thing, this almost relationship, this permanent maybe, is the ceiling of what I deserve. Because if someone this smart, this funny, this attractive, this interesting can't fully choose me, then maybe I'm not the kind of person people fully choose. Maybe I'm the kind of person people like having around, the kind of person people enjoy, but not the kind of person people fall in love with. Not the kind of person someone looks at and thinks, yes, this one, I want this one, completely, without reservation, without a 5-word disclaimer attached. And that belief has started to leak into other areas of my life. I've started expecting less from people in general. Not because I want to, because the bar has been set. And the bar is people will give you attention, but not commitment. People will give you warmth, but not permanence. People will make you feel special in the moment, but won't build a future that includes you. And that bar is the height at which I'm now living. And everything above it, the full love, the real commitment, the being chosen without conditions, starts to feel theoretical, like something that exists for other people with different qualities, people who are easier to love. people who don't require a disclaimer. And I know that's not true. I know my worth isn't determined by one person's inability to commit. I know that they're not ready says more about them than it says about me. I've heard that. I've read that. I've said it to friends in similar situations. But believing it, actually letting it settle into my bones and change the way I feel about myself is different from knowing it. And right now, I know it without believing it. And the gap between knowing and believing is where all the damage is happening. There's a specific thing they do that keeps me stuck more than anything else. And it's not the flirting. It's not the late night texts. It's not the moments that feel like a relationship. It's the vulnerability. Every once in a while, they open up. They tell me something real, something they don't tell other people, something about their past, their fears, their insecurities, their quiet struggles. And when they do that, when they crack the door open and let me see inside, I feel chosen. Not romantically, but emotionally. I feel like they've selected me as someone safe enough to hold their truth. And that feeling, the feeling of being someone's safe place, is intoxicating because it means I matter to them. Maybe not in the way I want, but in a way that feels deep and significant and rare. And every time they open up, it resets the clock. Whatever progress I'd made toward letting go gets erased. Because how do you walk away from someone who trusts you with the parts of themselves they hide from the world? How do you leave someone who chose you, specifically you, as the person they feel safe enough to be vulnerable with? The vulnerability feels like an invitation. It feels like they're saying, I'm letting you in, which means I must want you here, which means maybe the not ready is changing, which means maybe this time, things will be different. But things aren't different. The vulnerability comes and goes like weather. It arrives unexpectedly, fills the room with warmth, and then retreats. And after it retreats, the same distance returns. The same line gets drawn. The same ceiling reasserts itself. And I'm left holding something private they gave me, unable to put it down because it's theirs and I want to protect it, unable to use it because they've already closed the door I thought was opening. And I carry their secrets. I carry their fears. I carry the things they told me at 2 a.m. when their guard was down and their voice was soft, and for a few minutes they sounded like someone who needed me. I carry all of it, and the weight of it ties me to them in a way that's almost impossible to undo. Because you can walk away from someone who gave you their attention. You can walk away from someone who gave you their time, but walking away from someone who gave you their trust, who showed you their wounds, who said, here, hold this, I can't carry it alone, that feels like betrayal, even when staying is the thing that's destroying you. And the really messed up part is that I think they know this, not consciously, not strategically, but somewhere in the back of their mind, they know that every time they open up to me, they're making it harder for me to leave. Every secret shared is another thread connecting us. Every vulnerability displayed is another reason for me to stay. And they need me to stay, not because they want a relationship with me, but because they want the comfort of me, the safety of me, the reliability of knowing that someone out there cares about them unconditionally while they figure out whatever it is they're figuring out. And my unconditional care is free. It costs them nothing. They don't have to earn it, they don't have to reciprocate it, they don't have to protect it. They just have to exist, and I'll keep giving it. And they've learned this about me. And they use it, not maliciously, but consistently. I've started to think about what would happen if I actually left. Not threatened to leave, not pulled away for a day and then came back. Actually left, blocked the number, stopped responding, disappeared from their life the way you disappear from a room by simply walking out the door and not looking back. And the thought of it makes me feel two things at once: relief and terror. Relief because I know, somewhere in the rational part of my brain, that leaving would be the healthiest thing I could do. That the constant hoping and the constant disappointment and the constant emotional roller coaster of being almost chosen is costing me more than I realize. And terror because leaving means facing the silence. And the silence after them would be different from regular silence. It would be the silence of someone who mattered deeply going absent from your life by your own choice. And choosing your own pain feels worse than having pain chosen for you. At least when they're the ones pulling away, you can be the victim. But when you leave, you're the one doing the hurting, even if the hurting is just to yourself. And I think about whether they'd fight for me. If I actually walked away, would they come after me? Would the leaving trigger something in them that the staying never could? Would my absence be the thing that finally makes them realize what my presence has been trying to tell them all along? And I know the answer is probably no. Or if yes, not in the way I need. They might reach out, they might say they miss me, they might even say the things I've been waiting to hear, but they'd be saying them to get me back, not to commit to me. And there's a difference. Getting someone back is a retrieval mission. Committing to someone is a choice. And they've shown me over and over that they're capable of the mission, but not the choice. And knowing that, sitting with that knowledge is its own kind of prison. Because I can see the whole thing clearly now. The pattern, the dynamic, the cycle. I can map it from the outside like a diagram. They pull close, I feel hope. Things start to feel real. They pull back. I feel confused. They say the sentence, I feel hurt, but I stay. Time passes. They pull close again. And the wheel turns, and I'm on it. And the wheel keeps turning because both of us keep showing up to spin it. Me with my hoping, them with their almost. And the almost is the thing I can't get past. The almost is the cruelest part of this entire thing. Because if they gave me nothing, I'd have nothing to hold on to. And if they gave me everything, I'd be satisfied. But the almost, the 90%, the this feels like love but technically isn't, is what keeps me paralyzed. It's too much to ignore and too little to build on. It's the meal that fills you up just enough that you don't starve, but never enough that you stop being hungry. And the hunger is constant, and the hunger is exhausting. And the hunger is the thing I carry into every interaction with them, hoping this time the plate will be full, knowing it won't be, and eating whatever they give me anyway because the alternative is an empty table. I wonder sometimes what they tell other people about me. When their friends ask, is there someone? What do they say? Do they say my name? Do they describe me as a friend, a situationship, a person they're talking to? Or do they say nothing at all? Is my existence in their life something they even mention? Because I think about them constantly. They're the first thought in my morning and the last thought before I sleep, but I have no idea if I exist in their narrative the same way they exist in mine. And the asymmetry of that, the possibility that I'm a main character in my own story and a background extra in theirs, is one of the loneliest realizations I've had through all of this. And I've seen how they are with other people. That's a detail that doesn't get talked about enough. Because when you're in this kind of situation, you don't just watch how they are with you watch how they are with everyone. And you look for clues. You look for evidence that they treat everyone this way. That the warmth you receive isn't special. That the late night conversations are something they have with multiple people. Because if that's the case, then at least you can stop torturing yourself with the idea that you specifically are being held at arm's length. Maybe they hold everyone at arm's length. Maybe this is just who they are. Maybe not ready isn't about you at all. But then you see them with someone else, and the arm's length disappears. And they're laughing in a way you've never seen them laugh. Or they're touching someone's shoulder in a way they've never touched yours. Or they're posting a photo with someone new, and the caption has an energy that your conversations used to have, but don't anymore. And the whole theory crumbles. Because they're not keeping everyone at arm's length. They're keeping you at arm's length. They're not incapable of closeness. They're choosing not to be close to you. Specifically, you. And the not ready has nothing to do with readiness. It has to do with willingness. And they're willing to be close to other people, just not to you. And that realization, when it hits, doesn't hit like a wave. It hits like a slow leak. You don't feel the full force of it all at once. You feel it dripping into your awareness over days. You process it in pieces. First the confusion, then the comparison, then the quiet devastation of understanding that the person you've been waiting for has not been waiting at all. They've been living. They've been connecting. They've been open to the possibility of something real with someone who isn't you. And the not ready was never a universal condition. It was a condition specific to you. And knowing that doesn't make you angry. It makes you tired. Tired in a way that sleep can't touch. Tired in a way that sits behind your eyes and in your shoulders and in the slowness of your movements for days after the realization settles. And you want to confront them about it. You want to say, you told me you weren't ready, but you seem pretty ready for them. You want to hold up the evidence and ask for an explanation, but you don't. Because the explanation would either be a lie designed to keep you comfortable and available, or the truth, which is that they were ready, just not for you. And you can't hear that, not yet, not from their mouth. You can think it privately, in the dark, where nobody can see the way it rearranges your face, but you can't hear it spoken out loud by the person who made you believe the waiting was worth it. So you say nothing, and you pretend you didn't notice, and you absorb the information into the growing archive of things you know, but refuse to act on. And this is what this situation teaches you about love. Things you never wanted to learn. Things you would have been happier not knowing. It teaches you that love isn't enough. That you can love someone with everything in you, and it still won't make them choose you. It teaches you that words and actions can exist in completely separate dimensions. That someone can say they care about you while consistently acting like you're optional. It teaches you that people are capable of receiving love without returning it at the same depth. And they can do this for months without feeling guilty about it because they told you the terms up front and you agreed to them. It teaches you that your presence in someone's life can be a comfort to them without being a priority. That you can be the person they call when they're lonely without being the person they think about when they're happy. That you can fill a role, provide a function, serve a purpose, without ever being valued as a person. And that distinction, the difference between being used and being loved, becomes harder to see the longer you stay. Because the using looks like love if you squint, and you've been squinting for months. It teaches you that some people don't know the difference between wanting someone and wanting what someone gives them. And the person you love might genuinely believe they care about you. They might not be lying when they say you matter, but the mattering might be about what you provide, not who you are. The comfort, the stability, the emotional availability, the certainty that someone out there is thinking about them at all times. Those are the things that matter to them. And you happen to be the vehicle delivering them. But the vehicle is replaceable. The delivery is what they need. And if you left, they wouldn't mourn you. They'd mourn the delivery. And they'd find someone else to provide it within weeks. And that thought, the thought that you are replaceable to the person who feels irreplaceable to you, is the quietest, deepest cut of all. It doesn't bleed on the outside. It doesn't leave a mark anyone can see. It just sits inside you, reshaping the way you understand your own significance, making you wonder if every connection you've ever had was really about you, or if you've always been a function, a role, a convenient source of warmth for people who don't want to build their own fire. There are moments, scattered across these months, where I've almost walked away for real. Not the performative pulling away, not the one-day silence designed to see if they'd notice. Real walking away. The kind where you feel it in your stomach. The kind where the resolve is physical, where your body is actually preparing to do the thing your heart has been resisting. One of those moments happened on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day, no trigger, no particular conversation that pushed me over. I just woke up and felt tired. Not emotionally tired, something deeper, existentially tired. Tired of being a guest in someone's life when I've been offering them a home in mine. Tired of measuring my worth by whether they replied. Tired of the cycle. And for about 4 hours, I was done. I felt it. The freedom of imagining a life where I didn't check my phone every 15 minutes. A life where I could walk through a day without the background hum of their absence. A life where my chest didn't tighten at the thought of their name. For 4 hours, I could see it, and it looked peaceful. And then they texted me. Something ordinary, something that shouldn't have mattered, but it did. Because ordinary from them is extraordinary from anyone else. Because a casual text from the person you love more than you've ever loved anyone carries more weight than a love letter from a stranger. And the 4 hours of freedom collapsed into 4 seconds of surrender. And I was back, right back where I started, sitting in the same chair, holding the same phone, feeling the same pull. And the almost leaving became another entry in the archive of things I almost did but couldn't. And I wonder how many more almosts I have in me. How many more times I can almost leave before the almost becomes an always staying, before the pattern becomes permanent, before the waiting becomes my identity and the hoping becomes my hobby and the shrinking becomes my final size. I wish they understood something. Not about the situation, about me. I wish they understood that I didn't choose to feel this way. I didn't sit down one day and decide, I'm going to fall in love with someone who won't choose me. It happened the way all love happens, gradually, through accumulation, through 100 small moments that individually meant nothing, but collectively built something I can't dismantle. The way they looked at me that one time, the thing they said that made me feel, for the first time in years, like someone saw the real version of me. The laugh, the silence that felt comfortable instead of awkward. The night where everything between us felt charged with something neither of us named, but both of us felt. Those moments built a structure inside me, and the structure stands even though they've stopped adding to it. Even though they've walked away from the construction site, the foundation is still there. The walls are still there. And I'm living inside a building they started but never finished. And I can't leave because it's the only thing that feels like home. And I can't stay because it has no roof, and the rain keeps coming in. I wish they understood that every time they say, not ready, a piece of me hears, not you. And that hearing might not be accurate. It might be my insecurity projecting. But the damage is the same regardless of the source. Because the body doesn't care about accuracy. The body cares about repetition. And the repetition is this. I show up, I offer love, I am told the love is received, but the commitment is not possible. And my body has heard that sequence enough times now that it started to interpret it as rejection, even when the words don't technically say rejection. And the interpretation has become my reality. And the reality is this. I feel rejected by someone who insists they haven't rejected me. And I can't argue with either of those truths because they're both real. And they coexist in the same space. And the space is the place where I'm slowly losing myself. I've started to pay attention to the way I move through the day now. And I've noticed that I'm always slightly on alert. Not anxious, just alert. Like a part of my brain is permanently dedicated to monitoring them. waiting for contact, bracing for silence, preparing for either. And the alertness never turns off. Not during work, not during meals, not during conversations with other people. There's always a small piece of my awareness that's tuned to their frequency. And that piece runs constantly, and it drains me constantly. And by the end of the day, I'm exhausted not from what I did, but from what I was monitoring. And the monitoring is invisible to everyone except me. Nobody knows I'm running this background program. Nobody knows that half my energy is being consumed by a process that produces nothing except more waiting. And the waiting has its own rituals now. Small, private, embarrassing rituals that I've developed without meaning to. I check my phone a specific way, not casually, deliberately. I press the button, I look at the screen, I scan for their name, I register its absence, and I set the phone down in the same position every time. And the whole process takes about 3 seconds. And I do it maybe 40 times a day. And the check never delivers what I'm looking for, but I do it anyway, because the ritual has become a substitute for the connection. In the absence of their actual presence, the checking has become the closest thing I have to contact. It's me reaching for them in the only way I'm still allowed to, silently, privately, without them ever knowing. And I've started to do this thing where I compose messages I'll never send. Long ones, honest ones. Messages that say everything I've been holding back for months. And I type them out, carefully, word by word, and I read them back to myself. And I feel the weight of them leaving my body through my fingertips, and for a moment, it feels like relief, like I'm finally saying the truth. But then I select all and delete, and the truth goes back inside. And the relief was an illusion, because the truth only matters if someone hears it. And the only person I want to hear it is the person I can't say it to. So the messages die in the drafts, and the drafts are full. And the drafts are the most honest record of who I am right now. More honest than anything I've said out loud. More honest than anything I've posted. More honest than any conversation I've had with any friend. The drafts are where the real me lives. The me who's tired and in love and losing myself and too afraid to stop. And the late nights. The late nights are their own category, because the late nights are when the distance is most physical, when the bed is too wide, when the silence is too complete. When the phone is dark and the room is cold and the only company you have is the weight of everything you're not saying, and you lie there and you think about them, not in the productive way, not in the way that leads to clarity or decisions, in the circular way, the way that loops, that starts in one place and ends up right back there after visiting every painful stop along the route. You think about the first time they made you feel special, and then you think about the last time you felt truly chosen by them, and then you realize those two moments are separated by months, and the space between them is filled with a slow, steady decline that you witnessed in real time but were powerless to stop. And you think about what you could have done differently, and the answer is nothing. Because you did everything you could. You showed up every day. You were patient. You were kind. You didn't push. You didn't pressure. You gave them exactly what they asked for. Space, time, no expectations, and they took all of it. And they gave you back almost. And the almost echoes in the dark room like a sound that won't fade. Almost chosen. Almost loved, almost enough. And the word starts to feel less like a measurement and more like a name, like the thing you've become. You're not a person anymore. You're an almost partner, an almost priority, an almost that walks and talks and breathes but never quite solidifies into something real, because they won't let you solidify. They keep you in liquid form, pourable, shapeable, easy to contain and easier to spill. And they pour you into whatever container is convenient for them at the time. And when the container is full, they set you aside. And when they need you again, they pick you back up, and you let them. Because being poured is better than being unused, and being used is better than being empty. If I could talk to myself from 6 months ago, the version of me that hadn't entered this yet, I don't know what I'd say. I don't think I'd say, don't do it, because that version wouldn't listen. That version was already falling, already leaning into the warmth, already interpreting kindness as something bigger than it was. That version of me would have heard the warning and thought, but this is different, and they would have been wrong. But you can't stop someone from being wrong about love. You can only be there when they're ready to see it, and I'm starting to see it. Not all of it, not clearly, but the edges are becoming visible. The shape of the situation is emerging from the fog. And the shape is not what I hoped it would be. The shape is this: someone who enjoys being loved but isn't willing to love back at the same level. Someone who benefits from my presence without investing in my future. Someone who has arranged their emotional life in a way that gives them everything they need while giving me just enough to keep me from walking away. And the arrangement works. For them, it works perfectly. They get comfort without vulnerability, connection without risk, love without the responsibility of returning it. And I'm the one who makes it all possible. possible. My patience, my hope, my willingness to accept the terms. I'm the engine that keeps their comfortable arrangement running, and the engine is tired, and the fuel is running low. And one day, maybe soon, the engine is going to stop. Not because I decided to stop, because there's nothing left to burn. And I've started to wonder what they'll do when that happens. When the engine stops, when I stop checking, when I stop reaching, when I stop being the person who's always available, always patient, always understanding, always willing to accept the crumbs of someone who could offer the whole loaf but chooses not to. Will they notice? Will they feel the absence of my attention the way I feel the absence of their commitment? Or will they just find another engine, another person with a full tank of patience and hope and love to burn through? Someone new, someone who hasn't learned yet what I've learned, someone who still believes the not ready when they hear it. And I know the answer is probably the second one, and that should make me angry, and sometimes it does, in flashes, in brief, hot moments where the anger cuts through the fog and I see the whole thing clearly and I think, I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who doesn't need 5 words to keep me at a distance. I deserve someone who looks at me and doesn't calculate the risk of choosing me. I deserve someone who says yes the way I've been saying yes to them, fully, without reservation, without an escape clause built into every sentence. But the anger doesn't last. It never lasts. Because anger requires a kind of emotional separation from the person you're angry at. And I'm not separate from them. I'm entangled. My feelings are woven into theirs in a way that makes separation feel like tearing fabric. And the tearing would hurt both of us, but it would hurt me more, because they'd feel the tear and move on. And I'd feel the tear and carry the torn edges with me for months, maybe years, running my fingers over the frayed parts, wondering if the fabric could have been saved if I'd just been a little more patient, a little less demanding, a little more willing to accept the almost. And there it is again, the almost. The word that follows me through every thought. The word that's become the title of my emotional existence. Almost loved, almost chosen, almost enough. Always almost, never all the way. And I think about the people who are going through this right now. The ones who are sitting in their own version of this silence. The ones who are holding their own phone, waiting for their own name to appear, wondering why the person they love keeps them close enough to feel the warmth, but far enough to never touch the fire. And I want them to know that I see them. Not in a motivational way, in a standing in the same room way, in a carrying the same weight way, in a knowing exactly what it feels like to love someone who treats your love like something they can pick up and put down way. And I can't fix it for them. I can't fix it for myself, but I can say it. I can name it. I can put words around the specific shape of this kind of pain and let it exist out loud instead of in silence. And maybe that's enough. Maybe naming it doesn't change it, but maybe naming it makes it feel less like a personal failure and more like a shared human experience. And shared experiences are lighter than private ones. Not by much, but by enough to matter. I've started to notice what this does to my body, not just my emotions, my actual physical body. Because the stress of living in this constant state of almost has a physical cost that nobody talks about. My sleep has changed. I don't fall asleep the way I used to. I lie there, replaying conversations, analyzing texts, imagining scenarios. My brain won't shut off because it's running calculations all day, trying to decode behavior that doesn't want to be decoded. And by the time my body is ready for rest, my mind is wide awake with questions that don't have answers. My appetite has changed too. Some days I don't eat because the knot in my stomach from wondering whether today is the day they finally choose me or the day they finally let me go takes up all the space where hunger used to be. Other days I eat too much because the eating fills something that the relationship isn't filling. And I know both of those patterns are unhealthy, and I know they're connected to this situation, and I can't seem to change them without changing the situation itself. And the situation isn't mine to change, it's theirs, and they're not changing it. So my body absorbs the consequences of their indecision. My body pays the bill for their comfort. And there's this tension I carry in my chest all day. Not anxiety exactly, something more specific. A tightness that corresponds directly to them. It loosens when they text me something warm. It tightens when they go quiet. It spikes when I see them interact with someone else. It softens when they say something that sounds like, maybe, one day, things could be different. My chest is a barometer for their behavior. And I didn't install the barometer on purpose. It installed itself, over time, through repetition, through the slow conditioning of connecting their actions to my internal weather. And now my chest reports on them the way a weather station reports on the sky, constantly, automatically, without my permission or control. And I think about what readiness actually looks like, not their version of it, the real version. Because I think we've confused readiness with perfection. We've confused being ready for a relationship with having everything figured out, with being healed, with being financially stable, with being emotionally unburdened, with being some idealized version of yourself that probably doesn't exist and never will. And that Confusion gives people an infinite excuse to delay commitment. Because nobody is ever fully ready. Nobody ever has everything figured out. Nobody is ever perfectly healed or perfectly stable or perfectly anything. Readiness isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a decision you make. You decide at some point that this person, this connection, is worth the risk of being imperfect inside of. You decide to show up as you are, messy and incomplete and still figuring things out, and you invite someone to be there while you do. And that's the decision they won't make. Not because they can't, because they've decided the risk isn't worth it. With me. The risk of committing to me, of being imperfect in front of me, of having to show up consistently for me, is a risk they've evaluated and declined. And the not ready is the softest possible way to deliver that decline. It's a rejection wrapped in a raincoat. It keeps the harshness dry. It makes the no sound like a not yet. And the not yet is what keeps me here. Because not yet is future tense. And future tense means possibility. And possibility means hope. And hope means I stay. And the staying has a cost they don't see, because they don't see my nights. They don't see me lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every interaction we've had in the last week, trying to find the one that proves they care more than they're showing. They don't see me deleting paragraphs I wanted to send because I was afraid they'd feel too heavy. They don't see me telling my friends I'm fine when I'm not. They don't see the way I check my phone before I check anything else in the morning. They don't see the small, private collapse that happens inside me every time they treat me like someone special, and then remind me, through action or word, that special doesn't mean chosen. They see the version of me that smiles, the version that's easy, the version that doesn't push, the version that accepts the terms without negotiation. And that version is a performance, the best performance I've ever given. And it costs me everything. And there are specific moments that keep me stuck more than anything else. Not the obvious ones, not the flirting or the compliments or the sweet texts. Those are easy to identify. Those are the things I could point to if someone asked me why I'm still here. But the moments that really keep me, the ones that tighten the grip past the point of escape, are the quiet ones. The ones nobody else would notice. The ones that look like nothing from the outside, but feel like everything from the inside. Like the time they called me and didn't say anything for the first few seconds. They just breathed. And then they said, "I just wanted to hear your voice," and my whole body went still. Because that sentence doesn't come from someone who's keeping you at arm's length. That sentence comes from someone who needs you. And being needed by the person you love is a drug that no amount of self-awareness can counteract. You can know you're being strung along. You can know the pattern. You can see the cycle. But when they say, "I just wanted to hear your voice," all of that knowledge dissolves. And you're back to square one, back to believing, back to hoping, back to holding the phone against your ear in the dark, listening to someone breathe, thinking, "This is it. This is different. This time they mean it." Or the time they told me something about their childhood that they said they'd never told anyone. And the weight of that secret, the trust it represented, the vulnerability it required, made me feel like I'd been given a key to a room nobody else had access to. And maybe I had. Maybe the room was real. But having a key to someone's private room doesn't mean you live in the house. It means you can visit. And visiting is all they've ever let me do. I visit their vulnerability. I visit their warmth. I visit the version of them that feels like mine. And then I leave, and the door closes behind me, and I go back to my side of the line, and I wait to be invited back. And the invitations come at their pace, never mine. I can't knock, I can't ask to come in. I can only stand outside the door and wait for it to open. And sometimes it opens, and the room is warm, and the light is golden, and they're standing there like they've been waiting for me too. And sometimes it stays shut for days, and I'm standing in the hallway, cold, holding a key that only works when they decide it works, wondering if the door will ever open again, or if this time, finally, they've locked it for good. And the late night conversations, those are the ones that do the most damage, because late at night, people are honest, or at least they feel honest. The guards come down, the performance drops, and they say things they wouldn't say in daylight. They say things that sound like confession, like admission. Like the walls they've built during the day have been dismantled by the dark, and for a few hours, the real them is standing in front of me, unprotected, saying things that sound a lot like love, even though they'll never use that word. And I sit there, phone pressed to my ear or screen glowing in the dark, absorbing every word like soil absorbs rain. Because the words are rare, the real ones, the ones that go beneath the surface. And I've learned to treasure them the way you treasure water in a drought. I memorize them. I replay them the next morning. I hold them up against the the daylight version of our dynamic and try to reconcile the person who said those things at midnight with the person who sends me a thumbs up emoji at noon. And they don't reconcile. They can't, because they're the same person operating under two different sets of rules. The nighttime rules, where they let themselves feel what they feel, and the daytime rules, where they remember that feeling things is dangerous and pull back accordingly. And I'm left holding the nighttime version of them in a daylight world, carrying words that were spoken in the dark and trying to use them as evidence in the light. And the evidence doesn't hold up, because in the light, they act like the conversation never happened. Not explicitly, they don't deny it, they just don't reference it. They move on. They text something normal, something surface level, something that gently, wordlessly puts the wall back up. And I'm standing on the other side of the wall, holding a transcript of everything they said when the wall was down, wondering if I dreamed it, wondering if the nighttime version of them is the real one or if the daytime version is. And the not knowing is what keeps me trapped. Because if the nighttime version is real, then there's something there worth waiting for. And if the daytime version is real, then I've been in love with a ghost that only appears after midnight. I've noticed that I've changed, not in a good way, not in a growth way, in a shrinking way. I'm less confident than I used to be. I second guess myself more. I measure my words more carefully, not just with them, but with everyone. I've started to believe at some fundamental level that being too much is the reason people don't fully commit to me. So I've started being less expressive, less direct, less honest about what I want, less willing to ask for what I need. Because asking for what I need in the context of this situation has only ever led to the same answer. And the answer has trained me to stop asking. And the not asking has leaked into every other part of my life until I've become someone who accepts whatever they're given and calls it enough. And I miss the person I was before this. The person who knew what they wanted and said it clearly. The person who didn't apologize for having needs. The person who believed, without evidence and without hesitation, that they were the kind of person someone would choose fully. That person still exists somewhere inside me, but they're buried under months of adapting to someone else's terms. Months of being told through words and actions that wanting more is unreasonable. Months of training myself to accept less and call it patience. And I keep telling myself that patience is a virtue, that waiting is noble, that the right thing to do is to be there for someone while they figure themselves out. But I've started to wonder if patience has a limit. If there's a point where patience stops being a virtue and starts being self-neglect. If there's a line where honoring someone else's process crosses into dishonoring your own. And I think I might have crossed that line a while ago. I think I crossed it the first time I swallowed something I wanted to say because I was afraid it would make them pull away. I think I crossed it the first time I pretended to be okay with the situation when I wasn't. I think I crossed it the first time I chose their comfort over my truth. And the accumulation of those crossings, the dozens, maybe hundreds of small moments where I chose their ease over my honesty, has created this version of me that I barely recognize. A version that smiles when it wants to cry, that says it's fine when it's not, that performs contentment in a situation that is slowly, quietly, methodically breaking its heart. And the performance has gotten so smooth, so polished, so convincing that I'm not sure anyone can see through it anymore, not even me. Some days I can't tell if I'm actually okay with this or if I've just gotten so good at pretending that the pretending has become my reality. I think about what would happen if I showed them this, all of it. Every thought I've had, every question I've asked myself, every night I've spent awake wondering. If I handed them the full, unedited truth of what living in their almost has cost me, would they be surprised? Would they feel guilty? Would they care? Or would they say what they always say, delivered gently with the same careful calibration they bring to everything? I'm sorry you feel that way. I told you from the beginning, I never wanted to hurt you. And they'd be right. They never wanted to hurt me. I believe that. I believe they are, at their core, a person who doesn't want to cause pain. But not wanting to cause pain and not causing pain are different things. And the space between them is where I've been living. In the gap between their intention and my experience. Their intention is innocent. My experience is devastating. And both of those things are true at the same time. And neither one cancels the other out. And I think that's what makes this so different from a regular heartbreak. In a regular heartbreak, someone does something wrong. Someone lies or cheats or betrays or leaves without warning. And the wrongness gives you a clean target for your pain. You can be angry. You can be righteous. You can point to the thing that happened and say, that's why I'm hurting, and the explanation is sufficient. But in this, nobody did anything wrong. They were honest. I chose to stay. The pain is entirely a product of two people being honest about different things and neither of them being willing willing to change. And the honesty is what makes it so hard to grieve. Because you can't grieve honestly. You can only grieve loss. And this isn't a loss. It's a limbo. And limbo doesn't have the structure that grief requires. It just goes on, formless, directionless, endlessly almost. But tonight, alone, in the quiet, I know I'm not okay. I'm not okay with being someone's almost. I'm not okay with giving my whole heart to someone who keeps handing it back with a note that says, not yet. I'm not okay with building my emotional life around the schedule of someone else's readiness. I'm not okay. And admitting that, even if only to myself, even if only in this quiet room where nobody can hear me, feels like the first honest thing I've done in months. And there are things I want to say to them that I know I'll never say. Whole speeches I've rehearsed in my head, in the shower, in the car, lying awake at 3 in the morning while they're asleep somewhere unaware. I want to say, do you know what you're doing to me? Do you know that every time you text me something sweet and then go silent for a day, a piece of me breaks? Do you know that your "not ready" has become the most painful phrase in my vocabulary? Do you know that I lie awake wondering if you think about me even half as much as I think about you? Do you know that I've started to forget what it feels like to want something without being afraid of it? Do you know that I used to be confident and sure of myself, and somewhere between your first compliment and your 100th distance, I became this person who second guesses everything? Do you know any of this? And if you did, would it change anything? Or would you just say the sentence again because the sentence is your shield and the shield is the only thing that matters to you? I'll never say any of that, because saying it would force a response, and the response would either be the one I've been hoping for, which at this point would feel too late and too small, or the one I've been dreading, which would confirm everything I already suspect. And neither response would give me what I actually need. What I need isn't words from them. What I need is a version of them that doesn't exist. A version that looks at me and doesn't hesitate. A version that doesn't need 5 words to keep me at bay. A version that chooses with their whole chest instead of measuring with their careful hands. And that version isn't coming. I know that now. Not because I'm giving up, but because I've watched this person closely enough to understand their pattern. And the pattern doesn't have a chapter where they suddenly become brave. The pattern has comfortable. The pattern has convenient. The pattern has someone who enjoys the warmth without tending the fire. And I'm the fire, and I've been tending myself, for both of us. While they stand close enough to feel the heat, but far enough that the flames never touch them. My friends tell me to leave. Of course they do. They've been telling me for months. And each time they say it, I feel 2 things: gratitude and resentment. Gratitude because they can see what I can't. They can see the toll this is taking. They can see me shrinking. They can see the light going out of conversations where I used to be the brightest person in the room. They notice, and their noticing means I'm not invisible, even if I feel invisible to the one person whose attention I actually want. And resentment. Not at them, at the situation. Because the advice is always the same. Leave. Walk away. You deserve better. And the advice is correct, and I can't follow it. And the gap between knowing the advice is correct and being unable to act on it makes me feel weak in a way that I've never felt before. I used to be decisive. I used to be the friend who gave other people that same advice and watched them follow it. And now I'm on the other side of it, stuck in the exact situation I used to judge people for staying in, and I finally understand why they stayed. It's not stupidity. It's not lack of self-respect. It's the specific gravity of loving someone who gives you just enough to make leaving feel like a loss bigger than staying. And my friends get frustrated with me. I can see it in their eyes. They stop asking about the situation because they're tired of hearing the same update. Nothing has changed. They're still not ready. I'm still here. And the "nothing has changed" is starting to sound, even to me, like a broken record. A loop that plays the same track over and over while the room empties around it. And one by one, my friends stop trying to pull me out. Not because they don't care, because they've realized they can't pull someone out of something they're choosing to stay in. And I am choosing to stay. And the choice is mine. And the consequences are mine. And the loneliness of making a choice that everyone around you disagrees with is its own particular kind of isolation. And the nights. I need to talk about the nights. Because the nights are when this whole thing becomes unbearable. During the day, I can manage. During the day, there's enough noise and structure to keep the ache at a manageable volume. But at night, when the world gets quiet, the ache turns up, and it fills the room, and it sits on my chest, and it asks the questions I spend all day avoiding. Are they thinking about me right now? Are they lying in bed in their own quiet room, wondering if I'm awake too? Or are they sleeping peacefully, unbothered, undisturbed by the same questions that are keeping me from closing my eyes? And the night is when the fantasies are loudest. The fantasy where they call me, right now, at this hour, and they say, "I've been thinking, and you're right, and I'm sorry, and I want this. I want you. you, not the almost version, the real version, the full version, the version where I stop being afraid and start being yours. And in the fantasy, I hear those words and my whole body exhales. Months of tension leave me in a single breath, and I cry. Not from sadness, from the sheer relief of finally being chosen, of finally hearing the thing I've been waiting to hear from the only person whose words could actually change anything. And the fantasy is so vivid that sometimes I lie there and I can almost hear their voice saying it. I can almost feel the vibration of my phone against the mattress. I can almost see their name on the screen. And for a few seconds, the fantasy and the reality are indistinguishable. And then my phone stays silent, and the room stays dark, and the voice I was hearing was just my own hope, ventriloquizing through the person I want them to be. And the disappointment of that, the disappointment of waking up from a fantasy you didn't know you were inside, is this specific, precise, surgical pain that lands exactly where it always lands, in the center of my chest, in the space that was built for them, in the room I've been keeping warm and empty and ready for someone who keeps saying they're not ready to walk in. And I think about the math of this, the cold, hard, unromantic math. I've been in this situation for months, let's say 6 months. In those 6 months, I've spent approximately how many hours thinking about them, analyzing their behavior, checking my phone, crafting responses, reading into silences. If I'm honest, it's probably 4 or 5 hours a day. That's roughly 1,000 hours. 1,000 hours of my life poured into the project of understanding someone who won't let me understand them. 1,000 hours I could have spent on anything else, learning something, building something, being present with the people who actually show up for me consistently. 1,000 hours gone, spent on the emotional equivalent of a lottery ticket that hasn't won and shows no signs of winning. And when I see the number like that, when I quantify the investment, the waste of it becomes staggering. Not the emotional waste, the time waste, the life waste, because time is the one thing I can't get back. And I've been spending mine on someone who gives me nothing in return that has any permanence. The warmth they give me is temporary. The attention they give me is conditional. The closeness they offer has an expiration date that resets every time they feel like they've gotten too close. And I've been pouring my irreplaceable time into something that has no structure, no future, no foundation. Just two people standing in a room that one of them keeps calling temporary. And I wonder what my life would look like if I redirected that energy. If instead of spending my mornings checking for their text, I spent them doing something that added to my life instead of subtracting from it. If instead of spending my nights analyzing their behavior, I spent them resting, actually resting, instead of lying awake in the service of someone who's probably asleep. If instead of shrinking myself to fit inside their comfort zone, I expanded back into the person I was before I started making myself smaller for someone who never asked me to be big in the first place. I think about that version of my life, and it looks brighter, wider, more mine. And the thought of it is both exciting and terrifying. Exciting because the freedom of not caring this much sounds like the most restful thing I can imagine. Terrifying because getting there requires the one thing I've been unable to do, letting go. And letting go of someone you love when they're standing right in front of you, close enough to touch, warm enough to feel, present enough to fool yourself into thinking they're yours. That's the hardest kind of letting go there is, because it's not letting go of something that's gone. It's letting go of something that's right there, within reach, almost yours, almost. And the almost is the chain. The almost is what keeps the door closed. The almost is the reason I've been standing in this room for months with a key in my pocket and no will to use it, because almost is hope's last address. And hope, no matter how many times it's been wrong, no matter how many nights it's kept me awake for nothing, no matter how many mornings it's delivered the same empty inbox, hope refuses to move out. Hope is the most stubborn tenant I've ever hosted. It doesn't pay rent, it doesn't clean up after itself, it just sits in the corner of my chest, small and persistent and immune to evidence and whispers. One more day. Give it one more day. And I do, every time. I give it one more day. Because the hope is louder than the pain. And the pain is louder than the logic. And the logic is louder than nothing. But nothing is what I'd have if I actually walked away. And nothing terrifies me more than the almost does. So here I am, at the end of all these thoughts. And nothing has changed. They're still not ready. I'm still here. The room is still warm. The key is still in my pocket. And the sentence, those 5 words, is still hanging in the air between us like a curtain neither of us will pull back. And behind the curtain is either everything I want or the confirmation that I've been waiting for nothing. And I'm afraid of both. Afraid of getting what I want because I'm no longer sure I'd trust it. And afraid of getting the truth because the truth might be that I was never what they were waiting to be ready for. And the honesty doesn't fix anything. It doesn't make me leave. It doesn't make them ready. It doesn't close the gap between what I want and what they're offering, but it clears the fog for a minute, for an hour, for however long I can hold on to the clarity before the next text from them arrives and the fog rolls back in and I'm smiling at my phone again, pretending this is enough, pretending the almost doesn't ache, pretending I'm patient when I'm really just afraid. Afraid that leaving them means losing the only person who's ever made me feel this specific kind of seen. And the fear of losing that, the fear of never finding it again, is stronger than the pain of staying. And so I stay, and the cycle turns, and the fog returns, and the pretending resumes. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, I keep hoping. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, in the background, like a program running on a computer you forgot to shut down. The hope is always there, always consuming energy, always telling me that tomorrow might be the day. Tomorrow might be the conversation where everything changes. Tomorrow they might wake up and realize that the person they've been keeping at arm's length is the same person they should be holding close. And the hope is probably wrong. The hope has been wrong every day for months. But the hope is the last thing I have that still feels like mine. Everything else, my time, my energy, my emotional bandwidth, has been given to them. But the hope I've kept for myself. The hope is the one thing I haven't surrendered. And I hold on to it the way a person holds on to a railing in a storm. Not because the railing can stop the storm, but because letting go of it would mean there's nothing between me and the fall. And I think about what it would feel like to hear them say it. The thing I've been waiting for. The yes, the I'm ready, the I choose you, the actual, verbal, unmistakable declaration that I'm not just someone they enjoy, but someone they want. And I've imagined that moment so many times that it's worn grooves into my thinking. I know exactly how it would feel. The relief, the exhale, the setting down of a weight I've been carrying for so long I've forgotten what my shoulders feel like without it. I can feel the lightness of that imaginary moment in my chest when I think about it. And the feeling is so good, so visceral, so physically real, but it keeps me going because the body doesn't distinguish between imagined relief and real relief. The anticipation of the exhale feels almost as good as the exhale itself, and so I keep anticipating, and the anticipation is what keeps me tethered, and the tether is getting shorter, and I'm running out of room to move, but I haven't run out yet, and that's the honest truth of where I am tonight. I'm still here, still tethered, still hoping, still receiving the warmth they give without asking for the warmth I need, still pretending the almost is enough, still telling myself that patience is a virtue, still carrying the weight of their not yet while my own shoulders ache. And I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't have a number. I don't have a deadline. I don't have a moment circled on a calendar where I've decided this is it. If nothing has changed by then, I'm done. I just have this slow building awareness that something has to give, that the version of me who entered this situation and the version of me who exists inside it now are not the same person. And the difference between them is measured in compromises, in things I said yes to when I meant no, in things I swallowed when I should have spoken, in pieces of myself I folded up and put away to make room for someone who never asked me to stay, but never gave me a reason to leave. And there's a specific loneliness to this that I want to name, because this isn't regular loneliness. Regular loneliness is the absence of people. This is the presence of a person who makes you feel alone. And that's worse. Because when you're alone, the loneliness makes sense. The math checks out. Nobody's here, so of course I feel lonely. But when someone is here, when they're texting you and calling you and creating these intimate moments and making you feel like the center of their world for an hour and then disappearing for a day, the loneliness doesn't make sense. And something that doesn't make sense is harder to process than something that does. You can't categorize it. You can't file it. You can't say, I'm lonely because I'm alone, because you're not alone. You're with someone, sort of, almost. And the almost is what creates the specific flavor of loneliness that only people in this situation understand. It's the loneliness of being chosen part-time, of being someone's sometimes, of existing in a relationship that only activates when they feel like activating it. The rest of the time, you're in standby mode. Still connected, still available, still waiting for the signal that tells you it's your turn to be noticed. And the standby is its own kind of suffering. Because in standby, you can't fully engage with anything else. You can't fully invest in other people because a part of you is always reserved, held back, saved for the moment when they decide they want you again. And that reservation, that permanent holding back of a piece of yourself, means you're never fully anywhere. Not fully with them because they don't let you be, and not fully without them because you won't let yourself be. You're in a permanent in-between that doesn't belong to either side. And the in-between has no name, no support group, no self-help book, no advice column. It's just you. standing in a doorway, 1 foot inside and 1 foot out, waiting for someone to tell you which direction to go. And this changes how you see love. Not just this love, love in general. Because you start to wonder if all love has this element to it, this imbalance, this gap between what one person feels and what the other person is willing to do about it. You start to wonder if the fully chosen, completely reciprocated, both feet in kind of love actually exists, or if it's something people perform for social media and wedding speeches while privately navigating the same gaps you are. You start to wonder if everyone is someone's almost, if the whole system of love is just people at different levels of commitment pretending to be at the same one. And that thought is corrosive, because if you follow it far enough, it leads to a place where love itself becomes suspect, where every I love you sounds conditional, where every I'm not going anywhere carries an invisible expiration date. And you don't want to live in that place. You don't want to be the kind of person who meets every expression of love with skepticism. But the experience you're having right now is training you for exactly that. Every day you spend in this almost relationship is another day your brain records as evidence that love is unreliable, that commitment is optional, that the people who say they care about you are the same people who will quietly, gently, without malice, keep you in a holding pattern until something better comes along, or until they get bored, or until they decide they're ready, which might be never. And never is a long time to hold your breath. And I think about the version of me that exists on the other side of this, the version that eventually walks away or is walked away from, the version that has to rebuild their understanding of love after months of having it distorted by this specific kind of treatment. And I feel for that version, because that version is going to carry scars that don't have clean stories attached to them. They're not going to be able to say, I was cheated on, or I was lied to. They're going to have to say, I was treated kindly by someone who refused to commit. And the kindness hurt more than cruelty would have, because at least cruelty gives you a clean reason to leave. The kindness kept me there. The kindness was the trap. And nobody understands how kindness can be a trap until they've been trapped by it. And the person on the other side of this is going to have trust issues that look strange from the outside. They're not going to distrust cruelty. They're going to distrust warmth. They're going to flinch when someone is nice to them. They're going to hear, I care about you, and feel their stomach drop instead of their heart lift. Because caring was what this person did. And caring led to waiting. And waiting led to shrinking. And shrinking led to here. And here is the coldest place I've ever been while standing next to someone warm. And maybe that's the real cruelty of it. Not the not ready. Not the mixed signals. Not the almost. The real cruelty is that they never asked me to do any of this. They never asked me to wait. They never asked me to hope. They never asked me to shrink or pretend or perform. They just said 5 words, and I did the rest. I built the prison myself. I walked into it voluntarily. I locked the door from the inside, and the key is in my own pocket, and the pocket is right there, and I can feel the metal of the key pressing against my leg, and I know that the door opens outward, that freedom is 1 turn of the wrist away, but the room is warm, and outside is cold, and they're in the room, and I'd rather be warm and trapped than free and alone, and that's not wisdom, and that's not love. That's just fear wearing the costume of patience. And I'm tired of the costume, but I'm not ready to take it off. Not tonight, maybe tomorrow, or maybe I'll just keep standing here, key in my pocket, door right in front of me, warmth at my back. And I'll wait 1 more day, 1 more text, 1 more cycle of the wheel, just to see if tomorrow is the day the almost becomes something whole. And it won't be, but I'll wait anyway, because that's what you do when you love someone who's standing right next to you, but living in a different timeline. You wait in yours, and you hope that one day the timelines converge, and you know they probably won't, and you wait anyway, and the waiting is the whole story. And the story doesn't end tonight, it just keeps going, like me, still here, still hoping, still holding a key I'm too afraid to use, and calling it love. Because what else do you call it when someone has everything you need and you're the only thing they don't want? And maybe one day I'll use the key. Maybe one day the almost will stop being enough. Maybe one day I'll wake up and the fuel will be gone, and the engine will stop, and the monitoring will end, and the phone will be just a phone again, instead of a portal to someone who keeps me on the edge of everything I want. And on that day, I'll feel 2 things, loss and relief. Loss for the warmth that was real, even if it was rationed, and relief for the waiting that's finally over. And I'll sit with both, and neither will be louder than the other. And I'll be somewhere between sad and free, and the in-between will be quiet. And the quiet won't be their quiet anymore. It'll be mine. And that's the thing I'm reaching for. Not the relationship, not the commitment, not even them specifically. I'm reaching for my own quiet back. The quiet that belonged to me before I handed it to someone who filled it with almosts. I want my silence back. The peaceful kind. The kind that doesn't hum with someone else's name. The kind that lets me rest. But that's not tonight's silence. Tonight's silence is still theirs. Still heavy, still waiting, still almost. And I'm still in it. Sitting in the quiet that used to be shared and is now just mine. Holding a phone that used to light up with warmth and now lights up with crumbs. Loving someone who keeps me in a waiting room with no door and no number and no indication that my turn will ever come. And the waiting room is cold. And the chairs are hard. And the other people in the room left a long time ago because they were smarter or braver or less in love than me. And I'm the last one sitting here. The last one still believing that the door at the end of the hallway will open and my name will be called and everything I've been waiting for will finally arrive. And the door stays closed. And my name stays uncalled. And I stay seated. And the story keeps going.